Welcome to Inside the Deal. I'm Trent Ziegler, your host, and this is where we break down how real operators are actually building, scaling, and closing deals in real estate today. Today, I'm joined by Chris Logan, the co-founder at Virtual Wholesaling Made Simple. Appreciate you being here, Chris.
Hey Trent, thanks for having me here. I'm really looking forward to spending some time here today and sharing my journey.
Yeah, man, of course. Let's dive in. For the viewers, at a high level, what does somebody in virtual wholesaling do?
Yeah, great question. So, wholesaling is simply connecting a motivated seller with a buyer that can solve their problem and getting paid to do it. So, if you want to think about it like a matchmaking game, you're going to help someone who wants to sell a house find someone who wants to buy a house, and you get paid for connecting them. See, when I first got started, I thought you needed a rich uncle to get into real estate. I thought I needed gobs of money in the bank. The problem was when I first got started, I didn't have either one of those things. So, when I first heard about wholesaling and how you could put a property under contract with really outputting any money of your own. You could then flip that contract to a buyer and get paid to do it, make tens of thousands of dollars to do it, and you could do it multiple times a month. Later on, figuring out I could also do this virtually from home anywhere in the country, I was all in, and that's really what got me into real estate.
Nice. I love it. Building the bridge between two customers and getting
Absolutely.
paid to be the bridge.
Yep.
Awesome. So quick backstory, how did you get into virtual wholesaling?
Yeah, great question. So I started out like most people do, knowing they want to get into real estate because you're always told by everybody that real estate is what creates wealth, right? And I had no idea where to turn. There's like 52 different ways to get started in real estate, and I didn't know which one was the right one for me. And like I said, I had those obstacles that I experienced in the beginning where didn't really have a ton of money, so I just didn't know what was the next best step. So a friend of my church, he was very successful, and I asked him, "Hey, you know, I'm thinking about getting into real estate. You know anything about that?" He said, "Go read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki." So I went into Barnes and Noble that used to exist back then. I read the book that night. I stayed up till 3 in the morning, continuing to read it. And it totally blew my mind because it blew the doors off of the American dream. You go work for a company till you're age 65. You hope you have enough money to retire off of. And then from there, you start living your life in your 60s and your 70s. That just didn't jive with me. And I wanted something more. I knew I was meant for more. So while I was checking my email at my girlfriend's house, who's now my wife, I saw a banner ad saying Robert Kiyosaki's coming to Tampa. And I was like, this is my opportunity. I just read the book. I got to go shake this guy's hand. So I went to the event. It was a 3-day event. She came with me. And they on the third day, they drew all the different ways you get started in real estate on the board. And as I was going through them, I was kind of feeling a little discouraged, thinking, man, that's not going to work for me. I can't do that. It requires X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And they finally landed on one strategy that I immediately connected with, and that was wholesaling. When they said you could take a piece of paper and you could put a house under contract without having to get a loan from a bank, and you could then flip that piece of paper to a buyer who wants to buy that deal. So he brings the money, you don't, and you could get paid for matching them together, and you could do it multiple times a month. I was like, sign me up, I'm in.
That's the
So
one.
yeah, so I went to a 3-day boot camp on wholesaling to learn how to do it. And I'd love to say after doing that that we made $1 million and everything was happy and we all rode off in the sunset, but that's not what happened. I made so many mistakes, and the first 3 deals I put under contract, they all fell through. So I reached a critical turning point, like a fork in the road, if you will. And I
Mhm.
thought to myself, I have two options here. I can push through this disappointment that I've had so far and achieve the thing I'm looking to do, or I can just realize that this isn't for me and move on, right? I
Right.
wasn't about to do the second option because I have this burn the ships mentality where when I go into something, I'm all into it. So I
Mhm.
leaned into it, and then we finally got our first deal closed. It was for $4,000. And that deal was everything to me because even though in corporate America I was making more than that at the time, that was the first time that I wrote a check to myself. No one else wrote that check to me. I wrote it to myself,
Mhm.
and that gave me the fuel and the motivation to continue. So, fast forward several years, we had a thriving business. We were doing it locally. But 2 years before COVID, we decided that we were doing too much running around. My wife would come home at the end of the day just feeling exhausted after going on 15 appointments a week,
Mhm.
sellers not showing up, properties, buyers not showing up. It was a mess. So I said, what if we did this virtually, where we don't have to drive to sellers' houses? We don't have to meet buyers. We implemented that model 2 years before COVID. And when the pandemic hit, while everybody else was like struggling and trying to wonder what was happening and shutting down their business, like we were having a thriving year and one of the best years we've had in business.
Yeah.
So fast forward from there, we grew our business to over 7 figures, put a team in place. Now we have deals that go under contract and get sold without me being involved. And my wife and I can travel and live our best life.
Nice, man. That's awesome. That's super awesome. Well, zooming out a little bit, and thanks for your backstory. But zooming out a little bit, what major shifts are you seeing in your industry right now?
Yeah, so there's a lot of regulation coming down on wholesaling. When I first got started back in 2012, it was the wild, wild west. There was no regulation. Hardly anybody knew about wholesaling. There wasn't any education on it back then, hardly. And you could pretty much do whatever you want. There was no restrictions. You didn't have to have a real estate license. Fast forward to now, there's been people who've gotten into this game, did not do it ethically. They didn't do it the right way. And because of that, just like one person can ruin it for the rest of the class, that's pretty much what happened, right? And so wholesaling is still possible. You can still do it, and we do it. Our clients do it, but it's changing how it's done in certain states. There's really three things that have come about. The first thing is some states require a real estate license to do it. So some people say, I want to get a real estate license because I want to wholesale in this state, and that's perfectly fine. Other people are like the majority of my clients who are like, I don't want to get a real estate license, but I want to wholesale virtually in another state. And that's where virtual wholesaling has become more of a requirement more than a luxury like it used to be, right?
Right.
The second thing that's happened is there's some disclosures that you have to make to sellers in certain states. Some states, they're pretty easy. You can just outline them in a contract, basically stating you're entering in the agreement with the intent to make a profit. And then others are a little bit more strict, basically saying that, you have to inform the seller that they have to get a formal appraisal on their property before you can submit an offer, and then they have 30 days to cancel. And then there's disclosures you have to give to buyers in some states, right? So the key thing to remember is if you're going to get started in wholesaling, you want to be very aware of what the laws are in your state. You can find this out simply by talking to a real estate attorney or a coach. Either one of those can point you in the right direction so you can do this business ethically. You can do it without landing yourself in hot water, and you can create a fantastic income doing it.
Right. Awesome. So how have the shifts in the industry that you've seen impacted your business growth or your business strategies?
Yeah, so it's actually helped our business. So back in 2022, there was 80,000 wholesalers in the market. Now, roughly, there's about 10,000 wholesalers in the market. So what that means is that there's a lot more opportunity for people who are doing business the right way
Mhm.
and are committed to making this work, right? So that has impacted us because it's been a lot easier to get deals back in 2022. There was a lot of competition for deals. You had to have really, really sharp sales skills to get deals under contract. You were dealing with situations where sellers would sign with you, they would go sign with somebody else,
Right.
and you'd have to kind of deal with that. But now it's like actually a lot easier to get deals under contract because things have cooled off a bit in the market. The market's flipped. It's no longer a seller's market. It's more of a buyer's market right now,
Mhm.
where there are more sellers than there are buyers. And naturally, with supply and demand, when there's a lot more of something, buyers can be a bit pickier, sellers are a little bit easier to negotiate with. So it's like the best time in the last 10 years to get into wholesaling right now.
Yeah. Awesome. Glad to hear that that's working out for you.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
totally. We love it, and it's honestly the only way that we recommend people to get started in real estate because when you're first getting started, I've seen so many people take money from their 401(k), their savings, buy a property, say I'm gonna renovate it like the guys on HGTV, or I'm gonna
right.
buy a rental and everything's gonna go right. And then things go wrong, they lose money, it takes them out of the game.
Yeah.
Wholesaling allows you to learn real estate, have a foundation in place to understand what good deals look like, what bad deals look like, without risking your own capital. So when the time comes for you to actually start buying some of these deals yourself, you can make more confident buying decisions.
Right. Right. Um, well, zooming in a little bit more on your business, Virtual Wholesaling Made Simple. What's
Mhm.
working well for you guys right now?
So what's working really well for us right now is keeping things simple. So there's a lot of ways that people have to get started in wholesaling. When I say a lot of ways, there's a lot of ways that people find motivated sellers, find buyers. And what we do is we thrive by keeping things very simple. giving people one way to find buyers. So if it's cool, can I start with buyers there?
Yeah, go ahead.
Great. Yeah. So most new wholesalers, when they're first getting started, they're told if you find a good deal, it'll sell itself. But that's terrible advice. It's designed to keep people stuck. So what we do is we actually show you the opposite. We show you to find your buyers first. So when you start with buyers, you can have conversations with them, find out what they're looking for. From there, you can go take that, put it into marketing, and go find the perfect deal and bring it to them. And when you do that, wholesaling becomes so much easier. So we start by finding our buyers first and recommending one way to do it. The second piece to that is finding these motivated sellers, these
Hmm.
sellers who need to sell these properties,
Yeah.
because we want to work with people who don't just want to sell, but need to sell.
Hmm.
So the way that we do that is through simple cold calls. We use a software to pull a list of motivated homeowners that are facing life events causing them to need to sell. Maybe they're a tired landlord, maybe it's a vacant house, maybe someone inherited a house, and we're simply picking up the phone and having lots of uncomfortable conversations with these people.
Right.
And then after you have enough conversations, eventually you're going to get a seller that says, yes, I do want to sell. And you can
Mhm.
really be in a great position to be able to help them.
Yeah.
You put the deal under contract, and then from there, you bring it to your buyer. He buys the deal from you. And then in 2 to 4 weeks, you receive a check of somewhere between five to $15,000.
Right. So putting the buyer first,
Yes.
delaying the seller. So as soon as the seller's ready, the buyer's already ready to go.
Exactly. So most people start this business backwards. They start by trying to find good deals. They hope it's
Mhm.
a good deal. And that results in a lot of the things like it happened to me. I put 3 deals under contract. They fell through, left me discouraged, frustrated, and
Mhm.
not knowing if this was for me. But when you market for your buyers first, you find them first, you ask them, what are you looking for? And then you simply go find what they're looking for and bring it to them. It makes that process so much easier.
Right. Right. Um, well, what's been frustrating? Where have you been seeing hangups?
Yeah. So when it comes to things that are frustrating, a lot of these changes that are taking place, they're good changes because it takes out a lot of the bad actors out of the game to where, people who are not committed to doing this business the right way, it
Mhm.
takes them out. But at the same time, it can add a bit more friction if you're committed to doing deals in a certain territory. So, yeah, just rules and regulations constantly changing, but that's something that we're really on top of, and we stay on top of that every single month for all the different states to make sure that we're recommending people uh, the right um, the right steps so they can make confident decisions where they are. The flip side to that is people have access to a lot more information now, right? So, for example, some of these sellers are researching things on Chat GPT. They're using AI tools to do that, and they're coming up with they're putting contracts through it sometimes. They're coming up with objections that they wouldn't necessarily come across or actually have without
Mhm.
having tools like that. So
Yeah.
naturally, the more information that we have, the more friction that that can cause when it comes to that, because everyone wants to be their own attorney.
Yeah. Right.
But these are all things that can be overcome simply by providing a good experience, making people feel comfortable, and truly focusing on solving problems and making sure that you're looking at these people not just a way to get paid, but as a way to solve their problem so they can take the next steps in their life.
Yeah. AI is over here saying, "Oh, this is a potential issue. This is a potential issue. This is a potential
Yes.
issue," and that now the client thinks they know more than you, and now you're trying to
Yes.
basically combat that and say, "Oh, no, that's actually not right because of this, this, and this."
Yes.
Being led astray. People are being led astray.
Yeah, a buddy of mine has a lot of rentals, and he's like, Chris, he's like, AI is driving me nuts
Yeah.
because, someone doesn't pay their rent on time. And
Mhm.
then they're taking the rental contract, they're feeding into AI and being like, you know, according to state rule X, Y, and Z, I
Mhm.
can actually have up to 15 more days to
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
so more information can always cause more problems, but like anything, if you ask the right questions, you make people feel comfortable and you solve the right problems, then you won't have a problem.
Right. Yeah. 100%. So let's talk about some deals a little bit.
Sure.
What's the best deal that you have ever done, and what made it the best? And by best, you can take that however you want, meaning
Hmm.
the most profitable, the most successful,
Yeah.
the one with the least friction.
Yeah. I feel that, well, first of all, the best deals in real estate don't have, the best deals rarely have the least friction.
Right.
But the best deal for me that I would have to say was a deal that we did. It was a tear down property. So we were marketing to this neighborhood in a place called South Tampa, which anybody that lives in the Tampa Bay area or Florida, they all know where this is. It's hot. Properties go like that,
Mhm.
and they sell for premium prices, right? So we came across this property that was a tear down. It's an old wood frame property. And after talking with the seller, we put the deal under contract for a number that we felt like was a good number, right? Based on that number, we were going to make $15,000 on that deal, right? Which is not a small amount of money, right? Especially if you're kind of just getting things going and you're in your first like 2 or 3 years of the business.
Mhm.
Um, what we learned was that the amount you make on something all depends on the type of buyer that you bring, because not every property, not every buyer looks at every property the same. There are
Mhm.
some people that want to buy the property and fix it up, and that's ideally who we were thinking about selling it to. But we didn't think about land value. So we did a little bit more research and we saw that a builder, very popular builder, was actually knocking down these small wood frame houses and building, five, $600,000 houses on these lots.
Right.
So once we found that, we started asking better questions like who's the buyer for this? Who could buy this property? So we actually ended up connecting with that same builder
Mhm.
and brought him the deal. And we ended up making like $29,000 on the deal.
Oh,
This
wow.
was a really big thing for us
Mhm.
because every deal that we did before that maxed out at 15,000.
Mhm.
And so that's what we thought our limiting belief was, you can only make $15,000 on a deal.
Yeah.
That deal did two things for us. The first thing it did was open our eyes to what's possible in this business.
Mhm.
And then we would go on to make assignment fees of 50,000, 60,000 and higher, right?
Yeah.
So that opened the door to that possibility. And the second thing it did is it allowed me to get the ring that I got from my wife and us to take
Oh,
next
nice.
steps and get married. Yeah. So
Nice.
that deal
Nice.
happened 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And it'll always be one that I remember. And it's always the one that people say, what's the most significant deal you've done? It's always that one because it unlocked what's possible in this business in my mind. And
Yeah.
then it allowed me to take next steps for a better future. So
Right. Maybe that was a God wink for you. God
I
saying,
think
"Hey,
it was.
here's some
Yeah.
extra money for you."
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because she made this joke where every year that I'd wait to propose, we'd go up a carrot, and I was like, "Whew, this is getting expensive."
Yeah, right.
So, no, I'm joking, but like that, it was a significant moment for me because it opened my mind and allowed me to take next steps. So that was all I
Yeah.
could ask for.
No, that's awesome. On the flip side of that, what's the worst deal that you've ever done? What went wrong? What made it so bad? Where was the friction at?
Oh man, well, the worst deal that we've done is probably a deal that we're working right now, actually.
Okay.
This deal, we put this thing under contract 2 or 3 years ago,
Oh.
and it was a great deal at the time. We've sold it to two buyers already, but we had to cancel contracts with those buyers because this deal keeps getting delayed. If there's an encyclopedia of real estate problems that you could have that could come up, this one property would probably be all of the problems.
Hmm.
I mean, we've had this property was an inherited house where the owner passed away. The guy who inherited is just his life's a mess,
Hmm.
and the paperwork to inherit the house was filled out the wrong way, so we had to get that taken care of. There's been guardianship issues with this. There's been code violation liens we've had to get negotiated down. There's been um, quit claim deed issue, like any type of issue you could possibly think about has come up. And there's been people that have actually passed away during the transaction, which delays it again another 6 months. And
Yeah.
so there's just been a lot of things that have happened to it, but once everything's said and done, we'll probably make around 20 or 30,000 bucks in the deal. So I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah.
But regardless, it's just been one of those situations where everything. And one thing I didn't mention on that last deal that I told you about that had those two shifts,
Mhm.
that deal was pretty crazy too, because it was an inherited house situation,
Mhm.
and there was like eight beneficiaries. We had three of them die when we before we got the deal closed. They were like
Yeah.
dropping like flies. At
Yeah.
one point, we considered going to Africa because one of the owners lived in the hill country of Africa, and
Really?
he couldn't take phone calls or anything, but people knew where his village was. And so
Mhm.
my wife and I almost got on a plane, flew to Africa to get him to sign the agreement. Wild stuff.
Yeah.
But a day in real estate is never a calm day in real estate.
Yeah. Hey, that would have been a fun business expense to have, a trip to Africa,
Oh
go
yeah.
on a safari or something.
I was kind of looking forward to it. I was like, Dave, we're gonna go
Yeah.
to Africa. We're gonna
Yeah.
hop on a bus. We're gonna go to this guy's village that's on this dirt road, and we're gonna have him sign the agreement, and then
Yeah.
we're good. But he ended up passing away, which is kind of sad. But
Yeah, so
you know,
that stinks.
yeah.
Dropping like flies. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
it was wild, wild.
How many are left of the beneficiaries of the eight?
So of the eight, I want to say there was five left in the end because three of them passed away.
It's a little crazy. A little crazy.
Yeah, in a very short window of time too. I think it was over the
Yeah.
course of 6 months, like three people passed away. It was wild.
Yeah. Um, well, getting out of the morbid discussion of death
Yeah,
beneficiaries, the future of virtual wholesaling made simple.
yeah,
Where do you want to be 12 to 18 months from now?
yeah. Great question. So where we want to be 12 to 18 months from now is to be able to impact more people. We're always on that journey to impact more people as they come into our community, help them land their first deal and set them on the path of making 30K a month. Like that's our goal. So to be able to impact that, and then really just to continue to serve them in the best way possible, right? So our goal is to continue to bring more people in our community, continue to grow our base, so we can continue to serve these people in the best way possible, deliver the best coaching that they've ever experienced, so they can achieve their goals and take the next steps in their life, whether that leads them.
Right. Awesome. Develop more relationships.
Yeah, develop more
So,
relationships.
how are what are your plans to get there?
Yeah, so the plans to get there are to, first of all, um, so the plan to get there is first to increase our exposure. So I'm hopping on a lot of podcasts like this.
Mhm.
I'm talking in a lot of other groups, getting on more podcasts. We do Facebook ads to attract people into our community, grow our Facebook group. And so there's a lot of things that we're doing like that to constantly bring people into our world, um, showcase what we got going on to where the natural step for them is to take steps forward. We're growing our YouTube channel right now. That's something I'm really excited about. We launched, I think it's in the very beginning stages, but we're up to like somewhere on like 30,000 or 50,000 views, which is very exciting.
Yeah.
And so we're taking next steps there. But yeah, it's just really it's really just kind of growing our exposure so we attract more people, build deeper relationships, and put more people on that path to landing their first deal and doing deals consistently.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, what's the biggest bottleneck in your business right now that could make you potentially not achieve your goals?
Yeah, so finding the right people is always the challenge. Making sure that you're attracting the right people into your opportunity, and making sure that they're in a mindset of I'm serious about this. This is what I want for my future, and I'm willing to go all in, right? So there's always that piece to it, but some steps we've taken there has been refining our messaging, dialing in our core processes better to really start making sure we're attracting the right people with everything that we put out there. And that's the journey right there is to continue refining that. So
Okay. Well, shifting gears here a little bit to talk about AI. AI in
yeah,
wholesaling, AI in real estate. We'll briefly touch on this.
yeah.
What do you think? I guess where are you currently using AI in your business, if at all? What
Yeah.
are you thinking about it? And then where do you think AI could leverage the most opportunity or give you the most opportunity?
Sure. Yeah. So I'll share at a basic level how we're using it and then kind of like gradually step up to some more advanced stuff that we're doing with it.
Okay.
So at a basic level, AI has been incredibly helpful to us because I'm a really great, like, or I like to think I am at least, a great active listener.
Mhm.
So I take very good notes. But what AI has helped with, I have like a Fathom note taker
Mhm.
that takes notes on meetings for me as well. And I like to compare the notes that I took compared to what I have there. And usually I miss something. So it's made me a lot more efficient with how I serve people, whether that's sellers, buyers, whether that's new clients
Yeah.
and allows me to have real data to work with. So I
Mhm.
can take several conversations I've had with people if they're running into the same problem over and over again and kind of find out where the gap is, not necessarily the solution, but where the gap is in my coaching where I'm not
Mhm.
delivering the right answer for them that they need to get the results they want or explaining it in a way that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I am a A-type entrepreneur. I'm moving fast all the time.
Mhm.
And because of that, I also have that visionary personality where my thoughts are all over the place sometimes,
Mhm.
right? Because I'm moving a million miles a minute. And AI is a great sounding board for me for clarity, for honing things in, and basically adding concrete to a lot of the ideas that I have. So I like using it for that purpose a lot. Um, and then the other side of it is um, using it for systems and processes, right?
Mhm.
So whether that's systems and processes in our real estate business, saying, hey, this is our current system and process right now. Are we leaving any money on the table? What are the gaps? It exposes that. But the key is, I don't believe AI will ever replace coaches because you have to have the experience to ask it the right questions to give you the right answers. Because something I've seen a lot with AI is it will hallucinate. It'll
Mhm.
tell you one thing and you're like, okay, that's great. And then you're going in, you bring something else, and it'll directly contradict the thing it said before.
Yeah.
And so you have to have experience to be able to catch that. So you
Mhm.
don't go in this rabbit hole loop of it's like a doom loop where you're just running in circles all the time, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we've seen there. But on the more advanced side, we use this a lot in our real estate business and what we share our clients to find the best deals. Real estate has been something that has been dramatically outdated for a long time,
Yeah.
right? People send letters to find deals, picking up the phone, making calls, finding properties, downloading lists, uploading lists, a lot of Excel spreadsheets and things like that. And
Mhm.
that's all been done the same way for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
So, what we use AI with now is we use it to find the best opportunities. We have an AI bot in one of our softwares that does what's called driving for dollars virtually. So it'll go down roads and it will take a look at properties on those roads and it'll analyze the property, seeing if there's, any like exterior repairs that need to be done, like if the property's distressed. And then it'll pull those properties out of a big list that we have. So we're making sure we're only talking to the right people, people that really have a problem that need to be solved. So that's one thing, which I thought was fascinating. Use Google Maps to do that.
Yeah.
The second thing is for sale by owner properties. You can use a plugin on ChatGPT with Zillow, and you can basically give it some criteria that fits like a motivated seller. Properties that have been on the market for a long time, price reductions,
Mhm.
priced in this range, that say as is sale. And
Yeah.
then basically it'll feed back to you a list of properties you can call and then tell you the order to call them in and which ones could be the best opportunities for you. So
Yeah.
where I find AI fits the best is for systems and processes, and then on top of that, identifying opportunities. I mean, the tools we have access to today would have cost hundreds of thousands of dollars just 10 years ago to have
Sure.
access to. So we're in an
Yeah.
amazing time right now.
Yeah. No, completely agree. Um, ChatGPT plugin with Zillow. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
That's neat.
yeah. Most
That's
people
neat.
don't. Yeah, I just released a YouTube video on that, and it's been blowing people away.
Yeah. Um, awesome. What's the cost of not utilizing AI in your business today?
Huge. I mean, it used to be a point where I thought it was kind of a luxury and I just play around with it every now and then, just copy and
Mhm.
paste prompts and things. But now that I really understand how to use it, I can't imagine not using it
Yeah.
because it saves me so much time. My work output that I'm able to do, same with my assistant. I have an executive assistant. I have her learn this and get fluid in it. So this way she's able to take on more, right?
Mhm.
So I can easily do 3 times more than what I was doing before without it,
Right.
with it. And same with my assistant, which means it saves me money. I have to hire less people, and
Yeah.
one more person can do more work. So, yeah, I mean, I could not imagine running a business without it.
Yeah. I think it's hilarious that the more technologically advanced we get, the intent behind
Yeah,
technology and getting more automated is
yeah,
so that we can have more time and
yeah,
be more relaxed and have more rest, right?
yeah,
And what it's actually doing is it's making us do more work. We do 3 times the amount of work that we
yeah,
used to be able to with our new tools.
yeah.
So I think that that is just so funny, so
Yeah,
funny.
that's the American way. I mean,
Yeah,
you learn how to do something to save time, and you're like, great, that gives me more time I can put in and get more output, right?
yeah,
So, but I think the theme there, because you brought up a really good point, but I feel the theme there is working on the right things. There's a lot of people out there who work on who play around with it, and they go down this AI rabbit hole
hmm,
where they're 3 hours ago by, I'm like, what did I just do? So I feel like for people just getting started in real estate, people who are brand new, they really need to minimize use of those tools
hmm,
at the start until they're having conversations with sellers consistently,
right,
because the tool is always going to be an option for them to um, use as a way to avoid uncomfortable conversations.
yeah,
Like I have a guy that I'm talking to recently, and he said, I use AI to do test seller calls. Like I have it pretend it's a motivated seller, and then I'm typing back and forth talking to it. And he's like, it's good practice. And it's like, in theory, maybe.
yeah,
But the issue is you're going to be comfortable doing that. And when the rubber meets the road and it's time to pick up the phone and make a call, like you're still going to hesitate,
yeah,
right? So it's important to use it the right way. And if
yeah,
you're using the right way, it can be amazing. If not, it can be a massive distraction.
right. There's that book, Fanatical Prospecting by
Yeah.
Jeb Blount, and
Yep.
it's all about like cold calls and cold outreach and et cetera, et cetera. And he just continually says like stop looking for ways to get out of calling people, like just
Yes.
call the person.
Call the leads, man. Call the leads.
Right, right. Yeah. Awesome. Well, closing out here, if you had to give anybody advice in that was trying to get into wholesaling, what advice would you give them?
Number one, I would say get the right guidance. Number two, I would say focus and being consistent. Most people, when they first get started in this, they're all over the place like I was. They're looking at 52 different ways to make money, and they're pursuing all of them at once and going nowhere. Same thing when it comes to identifying motivated sellers. They're like, there's 10 different ways to market to motivated sellers, and they try to do them all and they burn themselves out and don't get anywhere and they wonder why.
Yeah,
So the biggest asset that you have in this business is being focused. And then once you're focused, you can be consistent. And once you're consistent, that's where deals actually happen.
right. Awesome. Where can people find you at, Chris?
Yeah, so the best place to find me at is Facebook. My username is Chris Logan REI, and it's the same across all platforms. Facebook's the one that I'm on the most. And on my Facebook page, I actually have a link to my free Facebook group, Virtual Wholesaling Made Simple, where we do free trainings every week on Wednesdays, and we show you how to go from where you are right now to confidently land your first deal and doing deals consistently.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on today and giving us some insight into your operations. Knowledge is wealth. Let's spread the wealth. Thank you for spreading your wealth with us today.
Awesome, Trent. Thanks for having me, and had fun.
Yeah, thanks, Chris.